Have you ever looked at someone and thought, this is it? This is my forever? That's how I felt about Grace. Our story began like a fairy tale. We met in college, a classic campus romance. I was the studious, quiet type, and she was this whirlwind of energy and laughter. She brought color into my black and white world. For 10 years, she was my everything. My wife, my best friend, the person I shared every dream and every fear with. We built a life together, a home filled with warmth and memories. I thought we had the kind of love that could weather any storm. I thought we were unbreakable. But some storms don't announce their arrival. They gather silently until one day you wake up and find yourself in the eye of a hurricane, with everything you believed in being torn apart. It all started subtly. Little things, almost too small to notice, but they were there, like tiny cracks in a perfect vase. Grace started working late more often. She was a graphic designer at a booming tech firm, so I brushed it off as a demanding project. Then her phone, which used to be an open book between us, suddenly had a new password. For security, she'd said with a quick smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Weekend plans we'd made would get canceled at the last minute. A work emergency, she'd explain, her voice laced with an apology that felt rehearsed. I wanted to believe her. I desperately wanted to believe that the woman I loved was just stressed, just busy. My gut, however, was screaming at me. It was a low, persistent hum of anxiety that I couldn't ignore. I started feeling like a guest in my own life, an outsider looking in at the new, secret world Grace was building. The distance between us grew, not in miles, but in the silence that filled our home. The easy laughter we once shared was replaced by a tense quiet, heavy with unspoken words. The tipping point came on a Tuesday. I remember the day with painful clarity. I'd finished work early and decided to surprise Grace at her office, maybe take her out for a nice dinner to reconnect. As I walked towards her building, I saw her. She was standing outside, but she wasn't alone. She was with a man, and the way they were standing together, the way he brushed a strand of hair from her face, it wasn't professional. It was intimate. My heart hammered against my ribs. I froze, hiding behind a parked car, my surprise turning to ice in my veins. Then I saw it. She leaned in, and they kissed. It wasn't a quick peck. It was a long, passionate kiss that shattered my world into a million pieces. In that single moment, 10 years of love, trust, and shared dreams crumbled into dust. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled away, unseen, unheard, my mind a chaotic storm of betrayal and disbelief. The woman I had promised my life to, the woman who had promised me forever, was living a lie, and I had just walked straight into her hidden truth. That night, our home felt like a tomb. I confronted her. I laid out what I saw, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. At first, she denied it. The lies came so easily, so convincingly. She called me crazy, paranoid, insecure. She tried to turn it around on me, making me question my own sanity. But when I described the man, his clothes, the exact moment of the kiss, her facade crumbled. The truth finally came out, not in a flood, but in a slow, agonizing trickle of confessions. His name was Alex. He was a new partner at her firm. It started with lunches, then late-night work sessions, then more. She swore it wasn't love, that it was a mistake, a meaningless fling. But every word was a fresh stab to my heart. How could 10 years of our life be so easily discarded for something meaningless? The home we built, the future we planned, it all felt like a lie. The trust, the very foundation of our marriage, was gone. It had been replaced by a gaping chasm of deceit. The days that followed were a blur of pain. We were living like strangers under the same roof. The air was thick with tension and unshed tears. Grace begged for forgiveness. She promised to end it, to do whatever it took to fix us. She quit her job to prove she was serious about cutting ties with Alex. She suggested therapy, couples counseling, anything. Part of me, the part that still loved the woman I thought she was, wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe we could rebuild. But how do you rebuild on a foundation of lies? How do you look at the person you love and not see their betrayal? Every time she touched me, I pictured her with him. Every I love you sounded hollow, a desperate attempt to patch a wound that was too deep. Sleep offered no escape. My dreams were haunted by the image of that kiss. I felt like I was drowning, and the person who was supposed to be my life raft was the one holding my head under the water. The love I had for her was now tangled with resentment and a profound sense of loss. I needed space. I packed a bag and went to stay with my brother. Being away from the house, away from her constant apologies, gave me the clarity I desperately needed. I spent days just walking, trying to process the wreckage of my life. I replayed our entire relationship in my head, searching for signs I might have missed. Were there other lies? Was our whole marriage a sham? The questions were relentless. My brother, bless him, didn't offer easy answers. He just listened. He let me rage, he let me cry, and he reminded me that my feelings were valid. He said something that stuck with me. You coo and heal in the same environment that made you sick? He was right. Thing with grace, trying to force forgiveness, wasn't healing. No, it was just prolonging the agony. I had to choose myself. I had to choose my own sanity and well-being over a broken promise of forever. The decision to file for divorce was the hardest I've ever had to make. It felt like admitting defeat, like our 10 years together meant nothing. In reality, it was an act of self-preservation. When I told Grace, she broke down. It was the first time I saw genuine, soul-crushing remorse in her eyes, not just fear of being alone. She finally understood that her actions had consequences that apologies couldn't erase. Our final conversation wasn't filled with anger or shouting. It was quiet, somber, and deeply sad. We were two people who had once shared a soul, now signing papers to legally separate our lives. We mourned the future we would never have, the old age we would never share. Walking out of that lawyer's office, I felt a strange mix of emptiness and relief. A significant chapter of my life was over. The path ahead was terrifying and unknown, but for the first time in months, it felt like my own. The healing process has been slow and non-linear. There are good days, where the sun feels a little warmer and I can laugh without a shadow of sadness. There are bad days, where a song on the radio or a familiar scent sends me spiraling back into the pain. I started seeing a therapist, which has been incredibly helpful. Talking to someone impartial, learning to process the grief and betrayal without judgment has been a lifeline. I've reconnected with old friends, thrown myself into new hobbies, and slowly, piece by piece, I'm rebuilding my life. It's a life that is solely mine. I'm learning to trust my own judgment again, to find happiness within myself, instead of relying on someone else for it. The scars are still there, and I think a part of them will always remain. They are a reminder of the love I lost, but also of the strength I found when I hit rock bottom. I don't know what the future holds. The idea of trusting someone with my heart again feels impossible right now. But I'm not closing the door on love forever. What I've learned from this is that you can't control other people's actions, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to let betrayal destroy you, or you can choose to let it be the catalyst for profound personal growth. I chose growth. I chose myself. For anyone out there going through something similar, please know you are not alone. The pain feels all-consuming, but it will not last forever. Seek help, lean on your support system, and be patient with yourself. Your story isn't over. This is just a plot twist, and you are still the author of your own life. You have the power to write a new, happier chapter. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to share, but I hope that by being open, I can help someone else feel a little less alone in their own struggle. Remember to be kind to yourself and to others. If you found any value in this, please consider liking and subscribing for more stories about navigating life's challenges. Your support means the world. Stay strong.